Welcome to MoggyBoxCraft. I'm Deborah and today it is a garden update. It is officially autumn now. Leaves are autumnal and golden and red and brown and crispy and falling and making a bloody mess. But anyway, on with today's video. What happened in my garden in the northeast of Scotland in October 2020? What's growing, who's been visiting, and what I've been doing to maintain the garden. We started October with some hedge trimming. I got some hedge trimmers a couple of months ago. So if you'd like to see where I got my hedge trimmer from and what else I got for the garden for autumn and winter, I'll put my shop and garden haul up here for you guys to check out. The hedge in our back garden that separates us from our neighbours is tiny bit out of control, so I thought I'd have a bash of chopping a couple foot off the top. I've only used this hedge trimmer a few times. It is fantastic for smaller hedges. It's a medium powered hedge trimmer, I would say. I had a lot of fun. I probably spent about a good 6 hours trying to cut our hedge. I did put down tarpaulin to catch all the branches and the leaves into, and then gathered everything up into ton bags. This is everything I've cut off. I don't know the actual weight of the branches, we haven't chewed them up yet, but I have packed them as full as I can. So after I spent 6 hours cutting this damned hedge, I stepped back to realise, looks like I've done nothing. Brilliant, just what we don't want. That's what I've cut all along here. You can kind of see where it comes in there. There's a few chunky branches that it just won't cut through. It just looks a bit of a mess, to be honest. Can maybe see it slightly better from this angle, and everything I either can't reach or it's too thick to cut through. So I went and chatted to my neighbours because yes, I would quite like a little bit more light into my garden, and my raised bed closest to the hedge does struggle to get enough daylight. So I had a wee chat to the neighbours and they were so lovely about it. Isn't it lovely when you get nice neighbours that just get your gardening dreams? When we do find a bit of time and some dry weather and Andy can help me, we do plan to pop over to the neighbours and sort of from their side and collectively our side try and chop the top of the hedge off and make it a little bit more neater for next year. Might need a hacksaw. We'd really need a chainsaw, but we don't have one of those. I don't know what we're gonna do. But stay tuned for future videos if you'd like to find out what happens there. I do want to cut the hedge now. It's perfect time so all the leaves don't drop off of it. Also the birds aren't nesting and using the tree as much, so less disruption for the birds. Talking of birds, we had a tiny garden visitor. There is a peacock or a pheasant in our garden. Depending on where you live in Scotland or where in the world, I don't know what kind of birds you have, but I've never seen a pheasant in my garden before. Never. At first I was like, oh, is that a peacock? No, it was a pheasant. For sure it's a pheasant. I've never seen a pheasant in my garden before. But here he was, or she, I don't know which. Just flew into the garden, picked around a little bit, looked very pretty. I then had the great idea that possibly, maybe it was hungry. So I did sprinkle down a little bit of bird seeds, snuck back onto our decking, tried to be all inconspicuous on my decking, trying to film this pheasant on top of the wall, thinking, ooh, we could come and encourage it to come back down and eat the bird seed. No, not interested. Sat there for 5 or 10 minutes and just popped over the wall into my neighbours. So I've never seen that pheasant before and I have not seen it since. I have no idea where it came from. Is that normal in a city? That's a new one for the garden visitor book. I know we don't live in a very big city, but just quite unusual. Is that normal? Has anyone else had a pheasant just pop into their garden? Tell me in the comments the most bizarre bird or most unusual bird you've had in your garden. So I'd be quite interested to know, is this a phenomenon? Or am I missing out here? Maybe there's other birds that pop into my garden that I haven't noticed before. Huh. Every day is but a school day on the bird watching front. After I got over the shock of seeing a pheasant for the first time in real life, oh, we do love a bit of IRL. I also think autumn in the garden is a time for just reorganising, tidying up, prepping the garden, trying to make it look a little bit nicer. We have an awning, which has been up now for a good 2 years. It's kind of perspex, you can kind of see through it. So the whole thing is just a bit grimy and got lots of bird poo. but it's quite awkward to get up there. It's the same material that we've got on top of the greenhouse, so I do manage to clean that relatively easily with a power washer, but the power washer was not going to work for the awning on our decking. So I found this. Now it says it's a car accessory, but it does say cars, vans, caravans, boats, glass roofs and windows. It's a soft bristled brush on an extendable pole. It extends from 1.3 meters to 3 meters. You can also attach your water hose to it, and there's like a little switch on it that lets the water flow through into the brush. As you're scrubbing, the water comes through and kind of washes everything out and keeps everything moving. I didn't want to use any soaps or cleaners to do this because all the water that's going to run off the awning and the greenhouse roofs are going to run into my raised beds because I don't want to damage my raised beds or my plants that are in there. I'll be honest, cleaning the greenhouse roof was definitely a whole lot easier than trying to clean the awning. So I ended up in a step ladder, precariously balanced, trying to scrub the awning roof, but it was worth it. I'm actually really pleased with the results. I don't think you realise how dirty something is or how much light it's preventing coming in till it's kind of clean. So that was quite a nice afternoon spent. I was absolutely soaked by the end of it, but I felt pretty chuffed myself, and I very much felt like I achieved something that afternoon. I also gave the decking a bit of a scrub, get rid of all the bird poo and grime and little, you know, that green stuff that just kind of grows everywhere. Well, it was quite nice to get rid of that too. And this wasn't even that expensive, this hose combo with a brush. It's got a scrapey squeegee thing as well for windows and things. I didn't use that, I just used the brush and then just hosed everything down to get rid of all the bits of grime that had been scrubbed off. Onto the greenhouse and garden. So one of my favourite trees in our garden is our red acer tree. It just goes the most beautiful, vibrant red. Stays like that for matter days, then the wind and the rain hit, and now it's all on the ground. But it was beautiful for when it was really red. When I see the acer tree turn bright red, I know Halloween is on its way, I know autumn is here. Definitely signifies the changing of the seasons for me in my garden. The beginning of winter, or the winter months. Although technically we're still a month away from that, we're still in autumn. So let's start with the raised beds. So the set onions I planted are starting to sprout. So they're all looking really great. At the other side of the onions is my green mesh box with some lettuce, carrots and beetroot. They seem to be doing okay at the moment. And then moving on to the courgettes, there is a few that are still growing semi-okay. It's been hitting really badly. But you know, at least the wildlife are enjoying it. Time to clear out the courgettes, I think. So I've left these courgettes in because they've still got a few flowers. And there's still a few courgettes growing in here. The winter peas are surprisingly doing really well. Can you see this? We have peas! Oh my gosh, and we've got more in there. Oh my gosh, isn't that fantastic? I wasn't sure if we were going to get any more peas, but yes we have. The peas that are in the pot definitely keep blowing over. If I do that again next year, I think we're going to have to think of another way to maybe secure them or pin them in place, or just stake them in place maybe. The pumpkins haven't fared very well. Atlantic Giant in the corner have done nothing. This is the Crown Prince down here. So it's 4 days until Halloween, and that is my best pumpkin. Not the best pumpkin. There's a little one down here that has gotten eaten. That looks horrid now. But we've got one more down here. That one's no better either. So it is time to remove all the pumpkins and admit defeat for this year. So a couple of weeks ago we carved our pumpkins, and I did try to seed save the seeds from those pumpkins. Unfortunately they went mouldy. So I had grand hopes for next year of growing Halloween pumpkins for my seed saving. It's not going to happen, but never fear. So I do have an idea for next year and how to grow my pumpkins more successfully and a better area to grow them in so they can spread out and be more successful than this year. Well, anything would be more successful than this year. And this is the only pumpkin I've managed to grow this year. I mean, it's a very cute pumpkin. Absolutely tiny. It fits in the palm of my hand. But he can make a nice centerpiece to go with our other pumpkins. It looks tiny. Tiny, but very cute. A little decoration, basically. An autumnal decoration on my outdoor table. So I still need to harvest my carrots. I'm just going to harvest them when I need them. The Brussels sprouts aren't as good this year, unfortunately, but I did give them a wee tidy up. Thinned them out a little bit and taken out any dead leaves. Brussels sprouts aren't doing as well as last year, although we do have a few in here. There's some wee onions in there as well. They're getting left be. And there is supposedly parsnips in that area. I have no idea how many or if they're okay, but closer to Christmas we will dig all them out. Fingers crossed for that as well. I've given the bramble a tidy up, so that's looking a little bit tidier for going into winter. I've given the flowers and all the flowers in this planter down here a nice wee tidy up. And I've removed the sunflower that was here. I've chopped down the sunflowers and I've popped them up here to try and dry them out so I can seed save from them. I have since taken it inside and let it dry in my kitchen. I'm not entirely sure it's okay or if I can seed save from this. I guess we'll find it next year if I can regrow any sunflowers. We're just hoping for the best here. On the seed saving note, I got these rose hips. My dad's neighbour had rose hips in his garden. I did ask him if I could grab a few and see if I can dry these out and use them as seeds and regrow this next year. I've got 3 little rose hips in here. I'm going to leave them to dry out and we'll find out more if this works next year. I've also got some seeds for the last of this year's tomatoes. So again, next year we'll find out. So on to the greenhouse. Not much has changed in the greenhouse. Most of the seedlings seem to be doing okay. I need to remove all this green sludgy stuff. That needs to go. Ice gem lettuce, surviving. Iceberg lettuce, disaster. Or Ramasco cauliflower. Well, it has grown a little bit. Not sure it's doing the best though. Beetroot is somehow surviving. But it's official, the winter peas hate it in the greenhouse. They've just, oh, although, look. There is a little pea in here. Oh my goodness. I'm really so shocked. I just think they're getting eaten by something. I mean, look at this one. There's no leaves on it. That's been eaten by something. Slugs, or snails probably. Process of elimination. Winter peas don't like the greenhouse. Aubergine. Yeah, still a complete disaster, but still the best aubergine I've ever grown. What a disaster. The F1 Redskin peppers. We've got loads of red peppers on here. Yeah, I really need to pick these and eat them before they go bad. That's how the greenhouse is looking. Little side note. My greenhouse could do with a little bit more ventilation. So I think that's where all that green, slimy, sludgy stuff is coming from on top of the soil. My greenhouse isn't heated. It is what it is. We're just going to make the best of it. Just have to find plants that are kind of okay about being damp and a bit cold, but not quite as cold as outside. Everything is doing reasonably okay with my experimental planting of winter veg. The garlic I planted seems to be doing okay as well. It's starting to sprout, just the tiniest amount, so pleased with that. And we're currently just eating through all the potatoes we've grown this year, the onions and the garlic. So really pleased with those harvests, and that should see us through quite a lot of the winter. I mean, the amount of garlic we've grown should see us through the next blinking year. I've also cleared up all the French beans, tidied up that whole area. Next year I'll be trying a different type of bean, or climbing bean. And it definitely will not be going next to the pear and apple tree. I think we'll leave that area a little bit clearer this year because the French bean just want to cling to everything. So if you've enjoyed seeing what happened in my garden in Scotland in October 2020, like this video, leave a comment, share and subscribe. Of course, subscribing is optional, but it's very much appreciated. So thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Bye! There's going to be far too much footage of the pheasant, isn't there? I'll try not to bore you with that too much. It's crazy. Pheasant? Pheasant? What are you doing here?